Welcome to Private Club Radio, your weekly source for industry education, news and discussion. Broadcasting from Tampa, Florida, ladies and gentlemen, here is your host, Gabriel Aloisi.
Hey, it's episode number 50. Thank you. Episode number 50, a big celebration here on Private Club Radio. We've made it 50 weeks bringing you the best in private club education, and thank you for listening. If you've been with us each and every week, thank you, and thank you even more if you have referred this show to a friend, told somebody about what we're doing and what we're discussing over here on Private Club Radio each and every week. It's my pleasure to bring these episodes to you. I really enjoy doing this podcast. It's one of the things I look forward to each and every weekend. I generally record these episodes over the weekend, sometimes very, very early on Monday morning. But it's something that I do that's never really felt like a chore. I've really enjoyed talking with some of our fabulous guests and bringing you this information on Mondays. And I'm glad that we've hit this milestone, episode 50, and I wanted to just have a celebratory episode to thank you, the listener, for being here, being part of the show, and being part of the community. If you want to get a little deeper into our community, I recommend you check out our Facebook group, the Private Club Radio Listeners Forum. Just search for that on Facebook. I made a big announcement there on Friday. If you're a part of that group, you know what I'm talking about. And if you're not, you better join the group to find out what that's all about. But something big is happening, and I finally made that announcement just to our listeners over there in the Facebook community. Now, speaking of community, I would be remiss if I did not share a story that happened to me yesterday. It's a personal story, but I think it's something that I'd like to share. If you have a Facebook account, you probably know that every once in a while, every few days or every week, you'll get your memories on Facebook. And what Facebook will do is it'll find some photo or some post that you created back in the day, maybe 5 years ago, say, and show it to you. And so I got a picture of my dad and my uncle who just passed away this year playing golf on the golf course. And it was about 8:30 in the morning. I was about to go into a big breakfast meeting or a big pitch for my company. And I saw this photo of my uncle, and I just started crying in my car right before I walked out. It was the last time him and I had ever played golf. It was 5 years ago, as of yesterday, Facebook tells me, because that's when I posted that photo. And I wiped the tears off my face. I went into my meeting and put my game face on and got through it, and it was fine. And I drove back to my office, and I was getting out of my car and walking up to the door, and I passed a gentleman that I see almost every day at my office building. And I've always kind of thought he was just sort of a grumpy fellow because I would generally say hi every time I see him, and I might get a hi back maybe 1 out of 3 times, for instance. And that's about it. We've never actually had a conversation other than passing each other like two ships passing in the night. And I saw this gentleman yesterday, and I said, hi, what's up? And he said the same thing back to me. And for once, I decided to take it just one question further. And I said, how's it going for you? Are you getting ready for the holidays? And I wasn't really prepared for the answer that I got back. That gentleman turned to me with tears in his eyes, and he started weeping. And he told me that his wife had just passed away 4 months ago, and that this was going to be the first Christmas, the first holiday season that she wasn't around. I asked him, do you have someone to spend it with? And he told me about his son and daughter-in-law he would be spending it with. And I said, well, at least you have them. But he walked out the door crying. And it just got me thinking, we're in a unique position in this business that we see people. We have the opportunity to touch people each and every day. And we never know what struggles people are dealing with, what's internal. And I tried to make it a point this year. It was my New Year's resolution that I was going to be less judgmental. And I was not going to take people at face value, but I was going to try to learn about people. And that I found, just not judging people, that even trying, and I've done a pretty good job, I think, but it can always improve. But just that little change has brought a ton of joy to my life and given me so much passion for people and experiencing what people have to offer. And so that little story is just a great reminder to me, and then maybe it'll make you think. But to me, it was just the perfect fitting way to end the 2016 year, to know that people are out there, people are going through things that we could never imagine. It's not our place to judge people or to treat them any differently than the next person. It's our job to understand people as much as we can and to be that shining light for them, whatever that means to you. And I think being in a service business or a service industry, that's the greatest gift that we can give to people this time of year, because there's so many people out there that just need someone to talk to. Well, to be honest, I wasn't planning on sharing that story or going there, but I thought that was needed. Just popped into my head and I thought I had to say it, so I did. So next, what I want to do though is get into some stats. We've had some pretty impressive stats over just 50 short episodes, and I wanted to bring some of those to you. I know a few weeks back, maybe a couple months back, we talked about some of our top listeners and things, but I wanted to break that down even a little bit further for you. So I know a lot of people are wondering, how many people actually listen to the Private Club Radio Show? Well, we've had over 13,000 unique listeners worldwide listening to this show. And if we break it down by the top countries that are listening to this show, most of them, the lion's share, are coming from the United States. That's the number one country with over 10,500 or so unique listeners coming from the United States. After that, number two on our list is the United Kingdom. We've had over 760 unique listeners coming from the UK. Number three on the Private Club Radio list is Canada. Canada, we have a lot of listeners coming from Canada. Australia is number four, and rounding everything out, which is a bit of a shock, I must say, but the Netherlands is number five on that list of the top countries that are listening to the Private Club Radio Show. I've never played golf out in the Netherlands, and if someone is listening to this right now, please invite me. I would come play. That sounds like a fun time. I'd like to see what it's like in the Netherlands. Probably a little cold this time of year, I imagine. The next thing I'm going to announce is our top listened to episodes ever in Private Club Radio, and those guests that really had something to say. And I think this will be useful for you, because if you've missed any of these episodes, you're going to want to go back, because clearly what these people had to say resonated with other folks. And I can sort of see that with the stats and how people are sharing this podcast across the web. And these are the episodes that you should be listening to first. So number one, most listened to, well, actually, I'm going to go backwards. I think that builds a little bit more suspense, don't you? In fact, let's get a drum roll going here. The number five listened to guest of all time on Private Club Radio is Greg Patterson, GM of the Beach Club. That's right. Greg joined us on episode number 11, Private Club Radio episode number 11. Greg Patterson, former general manager of the Beach Club. He has incredible charisma and a love and passion for this industry. Go back and listen to that episode if you have not heard it. Moving on, we have the fourth all-time listened to episode from Private Club Radio, and I'm going to play a different drum roll because I didn't like that first one. Let's try this one. Richard Copland of Copland and Keebler, all the way back in episode number 2 of Private Club Radio. We spoke with Dick about board governance, and we also discussed leadership, and we covered a number of topics on that episode, actually. Go back and listen to Private Club Radio episode number 2 with Richard Copland for that. I think we found the right drum roll. So coming in at number 3... Peter Nanula, Chairman and CEO of Concert Golf Partners, from episode number 16. Peter was on talking about what he calls the death spiral. I love that term. The death spiral at private clubs and how you can avoid that fate. He also talked about how to value a club. So go back to episode number 16 and check that one out. Number 3 listened to episode of all time. All right, we are moving on to number 2. And number 2 and number 1 have bounced back and forth recently. So this should be pretty exciting. Let's find out who the number 2 listened to episode of all time is. The number 2 listened to episode of all time belongs to Norm Spitzig of Master Club Advisors. Congratulations, Norm. During that interview, we talked about the attributes that make a great private club, what makes for great board governance, and what do boards really want from their general managers. And we had a lot of fun with Norm on that episode, the number 2 listened to episode in private club radio history. That was episode number 15 if you want to go back and listen to it. And now, the moment that you've all waited for, the number 1 episode in private club history. Drum roll, please. Michael Crandall, episode number 14. He's an expert speaker and author. We focused on club managers, how to develop a skill set for success. It's an episode chocked full of goodies. That's episode number 14 from Private Club Radio. Congratulations to all of our top 5. We've had an incredible run here in our first 50 episodes, and it's all because of these fantastic guests that we've had on the show. And if it wasn't for you listening to these episodes, we would not even be doing this at all. So thank you so much for tuning in each and every week, or just as often as you can get to it. That's the great thing about a podcast, is that you can binge listen if you want. You can listen to it once a month, however you want to consume the show. We put it out there every Monday, but I know we got some listeners that have listened to every single episode. And for those folks, I definitely say thank you. And I want to encourage you, if you are getting any kind of value from this show, to please share it with your friends and your colleagues in the private club world. I know that this show has a great impact worldwide, as we see through the stats and some of those that we talked about today, but it can be that much bigger and better because of folks like you who share it with their friends and let them know what we're doing over here. It's going to build this whole industry up as a whole, and that is the point of it, that we all get educated and we all move this industry forward. And we can't do that if no one knows about the show. So it takes people like you to share it around. Just shoot it via email to somebody or share it on your LinkedIn or whatever the case may be. I appreciate the shares that I do see from some of the fans of this show. And thank you so much for tuning in each and every week. The other thing that you could do to help this show is to write a review about this show. And especially if you listen to this show on Apple devices, like an iPhone, for instance, that would be perfect. If you can go to the Apple Store, leave a review, rate it 5 stars if you think it's worth 5 stars, and I hope you do. And if you don't think it's worth 5 stars, please get in touch with me, and we want to change that. But if it's worth 5 stars, please put that on there. Tell folks what you're hearing over here, and that really helps us get into the ears of some other people who might not have found the show otherwise. It's just the way that Apple does their little algorithms. If you have more reviews, people get to hear you a little bit more. And so that would be much, much appreciated. The next thing I want to talk about on this show are some ways that this show had some impact that I never would have imagined when I first started the show, that any of this type of stuff could actually happen. I received a letter, and I'm going to keep some of these anonymous, but I received one letter from a gentleman who was on this show. And what happened was Boardroom Magazine listened to his episode and actually gave him a regular column in Boardroom Magazine just because they heard his episode. They heard the value that he delivered to you guys on the show, and they thought that it was worth having him come on as a monthly or quarterly contributor. I'm not sure exactly the deal, but that was pretty cool when I read that. The other thing is a multi-million-dollar deal happened from this show. One of the guests had a board member listening to this show out somewhere in the country, And that board came to them. They did a deal. It was a multi-million-dollar deal that happened because of this show. And I thought that was super cool. When I started this show back in December and the first episode launched in January, I never would have imagined that that sort of thing would be happening. And it gives me a lot of joy to know that this show is making an impact. And so that tells me that, the guests we're getting on here are delivering value, and you, the listener, are taking action in your own club. And I'd love to hear some more of those stories. So go ahead and write in if you've had anything that comes from this show. Maybe it was an aha moment, or maybe it was something that you put into practice, some lesson that you learned and you put into practice. I would love to have you on this show to talk about that if you're interested. And if not, I would just like to hear about it, because I love to hear stories like that where this show had an impact. It's what keeps me getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning like I did today to do the show. And I really enjoy doing it, but would love to hear some of those stories, because I think it's really cool to see what folks are getting from this show, and it helps me put on a better show. And to that point, if you want to help me put on a better show, what you can do is help me decide what topics that we should be covering on this show. And there's one really simple way to do that. It's going to privateclubradio.com/vote and casting your ballot on the type of guest that you would like to hear. We've got all sorts of topics on that little poll, and you can even write in your own one if it's not listed there. So privateclubradio.com/vote. I'd love to hear what you would like to hear. Before we close out episode 50, I want to let you know that I have created a couple of consulting packages that are specifically for Private Club Radio listeners. So if your club is struggling in marketing and you need some help in taking your club up a notch, getting some more members into that club, trying to fill the funnel, trying to replace it with younger members, whatever the case may be, and you need membership help, I've got a couple consulting packages for you that are specifically for Private Club Radio listeners. The first one is absolutely free. All you have to do is reach out to me via privateclubradio.com. We have a contact form, contact page. Fill out the page. Tell me that you're interested in consulting, and I will either give you a free 15-minute consultation, and anyone can take advantage of that. For 15 minutes, I will listen to your problem and see if I can offer a solution. Hopefully it's a problem you can tell me in 15 minutes. But if you've got a particular roadblock or something like that, I will listen to it and provide you a solution absolutely free. The second option is you might want to take the step of creating a marketing and strategy plan for your club in 2017. I've just done that for the Naples Yacht Club here in Naples, Florida. I've done that for clubs across the country. And there's always insights that we get from that session. It can be held either live if I'm somewhat close to you. If not, we can do it over Skype or over the phone. But we get your membership folks, your staff, your committee involved if that's the case. Take a deep dive. Take a look at all the marketing that your club is doing. Find out where you're missing, what holes are missing. A lot of clubs aren't marketing, period. And so there's quite a lot of holes that they think that they can't market, but there's some ways that they can, and I show them that. But we take a look at the marketing, the design, your website, your social media, and I'll give you a 16-page guide at the end that's a roadmap to success, to bringing new members into your club, whether you need younger members, whether you need just to fill up that waiting list that you've been trying to fill up, or if you're just struggling and just need new members. That is a way that we can get started with a relationship. It's $2.99. It's generally something that I offer for $9.99, but for Private Club Radio listeners, I wanted to give you a little holiday present. So for $2.99, we can do that session. You get that 16-page report, which you can bring back to your membership committee and have an actionable plan that you can track results with and really make a push in membership in 2017. So I'd love to do that for you. Just fill out the form at privateclubradio.com/contact or send me an email at gabe@privateclubagency, GABE @privateclubagency. So take advantage of the 15-minute offer. And heck, if you like that, you can go on to the $2.99 package if that's something you want to do. Whatever you want to do, I just want to make sure that this industry is moving forward. And that's my little way that I can do it. So I hope you've enjoyed episode number 50 here on Private Club Radio. It was a little bit different, but you got a little taste of what's going on behind the scenes, and I hope you enjoyed that. Next Monday on December 26th, the day after Christmas, we will be chatting with Rick Coffey of Club Essential. Rick has been on the show before. He was a great guest, offered a lot of tips in terms of marketing and membership development. So we're going to have Rick back on. We have an end of the year wrap-up show. I'll be playing some clips from the best interviews. So some of those that you just heard in the list of the top 5, you'll hear on that show and a lot more. When I go back and listen to episodes, there's things that even I've missed, some golden nuggets. So I want to make sure that those are played. We're going to do a end of the year wrap-up show with some clips from past guests. And then we're going to start the new year off right with Jeff Morgan, CEO of the CMAA. The CMAA just recently released some data that they did on millennials, and I think that was a fantastic report that they put out. So I wanted to get Jeff on the show. I've already recorded that interview, so it's ready to go. You will hear him the first week in January. So I hope you've enjoyed this 50th episode. Thank you for being a loyal Private Club Radio listener. And until next week, here's to your membership success.
Just because this round is over doesn't mean you can't enjoy the 19th hole. Check out privateclubradio.com for more. Private Club Radio is brought to you by the Private Club Agency, the premier marketing and consulting firm dedicated to helping clubs increase and retain their membership. Visit privateclubagency.com to learn more.